My husband, James Carter, cheated on me because I was poor. 3 years later, I bought the company where he worked. That day, a light drizzle fell, the kind of weather that softens hearts but also reveals things silently rotting away. I remember packing James' suitcase for a 3-day business trip to Chicago. It had always been my job. He wasn't used to packing, or rather, he never had to learn because I always did it for him. I folded his shirts, ties, phone charger, some miscellaneous medicine packets, and then the gray suit jacket he wore for important occasions. As I reached into the pocket to check for forgotten items, my fingers brushed against a thick piece of paper. At first, I thought it was a business expense receipt, but when I pulled it out, it was a bill for shoes, a pair of Christian Louboutin, size 5, wine red. I stood still for a few seconds, still holding the receipt. The first feeling wasn't suspicion but amusement. I worked 8 hours a day, took unpaid overtime, ate instant noodles 2 days in a row to save money. Yet my husband, who often said the company was cutting costs and told me not to spend recklessly, bought a pair of $2,000 shoes. Was I poor, or was I being treated like I was? I slipped the receipt back into his pocket as if I hadn't touched it. Maybe he bought them for his mom, a colleague, or someone who asked him to. But a small thorn pricked my heart, not too painful, but restless. That evening, as I placed a steaming bowl of soup on the table, James came out of the shower, wearing a white t-shirt, hair still dripping. He looked at me and smiled, the same gentle smile as always, but somehow it felt so fake. "Honey, I found a receipt in your jacket pocket today," I said as gently as I could. He froze for a second, then put down his chopsticks and smiled. "Oh, the shoes? I bought them for Sarah, an important business partner. She helped me land a big contract." "Women's shoes, size 5, wine red," I said, keeping my tone neutral. He raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, she collects shoes." "Don't all women love shoes?" I pressed my lips together and gave a faint smile. If a man can come up with an excuse in 3 seconds, that excuse has been rehearsed for a long time. The next day, my company sent me to a major industry conference at the City Convention Center. It was a big event, with many businesses in the city attending, including Apex Dynamics, James' company. I didn't intend to spy on him, but as I stepped into the lobby, I saw a scene that felt like a gift from the heavens. James Carter, my husband, stood next to a young woman, slim, with lightly curled hair, wearing a black dress past her knees. The wine-red Christian Louboutin shoes gleamed under the lights. I didn't need to check the size to know, I recognized them from the nail polish on her toes. Emily Watson, the daughter of Apex Dynamics vice president. I'd met her a few times, at company parties, in media event photos. She always knew how to smile at the right time, say the right words, and wear the right shoes. When our eyes met, Emily didn't look away. Instead, she curled her lips slightly, a smile that said, "I don't need to hide." James, on the other hand, turned his face away, pretending not to see me. That night, I didn't ask him anything. I didn't want to hear another excuse. But I quietly placed a tiny recorder under the sofa, where he often sat to make late-night calls. I wasn't paranoid. I just wanted the truth. Because if I had to endure, I at least needed to know what I was enduring for. And I heard it, clear as day. "I miss you. Don't worry, she doesn't suspect anything. Don't do anything rash, let me handle it slowly." I sat in the dark room, listening to the recording, the soft yellow glow of the bedside lamp mocking me. Outside, the rain began to fall, drops tapping the window like the slowing beat of my dying heart. Some betrayals don't need to be caught in the act, just a receipt, a pair of shoes, and a whisper behind your back. I closed the laptop, turned off the recorder, and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back had messy hair, red eyes, and lips bitten until they bled, but in her eyes was a steely glint. I was no longer the woman crying over betrayal. I was beginning to learn how to repay my silence with a voice they'd never expect. After that night, I didn't ask anything more. I didn't act differently. I still cooked, did laundry, washed dishes like a silent shadow in the apartment I'd paid for half of. But I knew the only things left between me and James Carter were a marriage certificate and lies disguised in pressed clothes. I once thought if I tried harder, endured more, he'd turn back. I was wrong. People don't turn back because a road's been walked far enough, they only turn back when they're embarrassed. A week later, at a weekend lunch, James came home late from networking with partners. I sat across from him at the table, a bowl of cold porridge in front of me. I looked up, straight into his eyes. I just want to know, who was the girl in the red shoes that day? He didn't deny it, didn't look surprised, just sat quietly for a moment, then scooped a spoonful of porridge, chewing slowly. Finally, he put the spoon down, his tone casual. You're too sensitive. Typical woman, with nothing to do, overthinking everything. I laughed bitterly in my throat. Nothing to do? I worked 8 hours a day, cooked, cleaned, paid bills. But in his eyes, because I couldn't wear red shoes or charm big bosses, I was useless. Are you criticizing me? I asked, keeping my voice calm. He looked up, his gaze unflinching, cold as if we were roommates splitting rent. You're not bad, but you're too complacent, too ordinary. You don't understand what the elite need. You can't help my future. He paused, then added, you're insecure, clingy, living off my money. It felt like watching an old melodrama, the kind aired late at night for insomniacs, growing colder the longer you watched. A few days later, I brought financial documents to Apex Dynamics, where he was a department head, to deliver to the accounting department. I'd done this before because I knew the old supervisor. But that day, security stopped me at the lobby, checked the list, and said apologetically, sorry, ma'am, your name's not on the VIP guest list today. I frowned, gave my full name, and explained I was James Carter's wife, but he shook his head. Finance is strict now. No appointment, no entry. I stood in the lobby, holding the files, watching men in suits and women in short skirts and red lipstick pass by as if I were invisible. Then James stepped out of the elevator. He froze when he saw me, then quickly regained composure and approached. Why are you here? He asked quietly, clearly displeased. I didn't answer, just handed him the files. As he took them, his eyes darted around, as if afraid someone might see. Hours later, when I got home, he was there. No excuses, no anger, just an eerily calm voice that scared me. Let's divorce. I looked up, silent, but my eyes told him I heard. You're no longer suitable. I need a partner to take me further. That's not you. He spoke gently, like analyzing a failed business strategy. I watched him turn, go to the study, and pull out papers. The divorce form was pre-printed, signature line blank, red ink for fingerprints ready. I took the pen, didn't ask why, didn't cry. If I screamed now, I'd be pitiful. But if I signed silently, I'd be unforgettable. As I put the pen down, I made a vow to myself, not of hatred or instant revenge, but a promise I'd return, in a position where he'd have to look up. The day I left the apartment we called home, the sky was neither rainy nor sunny. The air was bland, like James' goodbye, no climax, no drama, just a reviewed report. I took nothing but a suitcase of clothes, an old laptop, and some coding files for jobless days. Oh, and the recorder, holding the final words of a marriage I'd paid for with my youth. My new room was in an old neighborhood, full of small shops, run-down apartments, and late-night dumpling stalls. Barely 20 square meters, it had a single bed, a folding table, and a bathroom separated by a plastic curtain. But it was mine. No one judged me for my background, bank account, or soup that didn't suit a future mother-in-law's taste. Anna Brooks, my college best friend, was the first to call after hearing the news. "Are you okay?" Her voice came through, worried yet gentle. I laughed. "Better than yesterday, not as good as tomorrow." We met at our old study cafe. Anna, now a data analyst for a convenience store chain, always dreamed of starting a business. So did I. We joked about launching a company and going bankrupt for fun. Who knew, when life hit rock bottom, we wouldn't fail? We named it DataCheck, short for data checking, a system using AI to detect financial discrepancies or fraud in businesses. I'd gotten the idea when James mentioned shady transfers in finance. Back then, I naively thought he was joking. Now, I used it to rewrite my life. We started in another rented room, a makeshift office. No capital, no connections, just computers, code, and two fearless minds. I stayed up until 3 a.m. coding. Anna knocked on small companies' doors, begging them to test our system for free. Some nights, we ate dry instant noodles, dipped in hot water from a kettle, laughing like mad in the howling wind, as if hitting rock bottom left nothing to lose. I occasionally scrolled online, not for fun, but to observe. One day, I saw James Carter in a local finance paper. James Carter, young talent, top candidate for Apex Dynamics deputy CFO. Below was a photo of him in a black suit, next to Emily Watson, labeled Vice President of Legal and daughter of the VP. I wasn't surprised. Seeing them smile like they owned the world, I smirked. No bitterness, just realization. They thought I'd fallen off a cliff, not knowing that when you fall deep enough, you learn to grow wings. I wasn't jealous or hoping he'd return. I just wanted the day James sat in a fancy boardroom, signing a key document, to read my name and look up. A reader's comment on the article said, "Heard he's marrying the VP Watson's daughter. Nothing beats wedding someone who boosts your career." I read it, closed the laptop quietly, not angry, just amused. If people mistook marriage for exploitation, I'd teach them the cost of failed exploitation. DataCheck was born in a shabby room, surviving its first year on the reckless spirit of two women with nothing but brains and grit. But by the second year, I felt a unique exhaustion, not from lack of money, but from lack of chances to play the big game. Seeing James in the news as a promising young leader and future son-in-law of VP Watson, I didn't get mad or regret. I just wondered why liars climbed so easily. Then, just as I thought we'd be stuck in a loop of demos, pitches, and rejections, the first big door opened. One day, as I edited code for a data presentation, eyes blurry and neck stiff, Anna burst in, laptop in hand, eyes shining. "Remember David, my cousin's friend at Eastern Group? He sent our system intro to their tech department." I stared at her. "You sent it without telling me?" She winked. "Sent it, then reported. What if I told you first and you stopped me, thinking we're not good enough?" I sighed but said nothing. I knew Anna did it not out of disrespect, but because she knew my past haunted me, being dismissed for lacking commercial value. 3 weeks later, Eastern Group's system review team emailed, "We're interested in DataCheck's practical application for enterprise risk control and would like to schedule a virtual meeting with the lead technician." The Zoom call was set for Friday morning. I wore a white shirt, applied light foundation, swept my hair to one side, and stared at the screen. I knew this chance wouldn't come twice. My counterpart was a man in his 30s, sharp eyes, tan skin, a small mole near his right eye. His Zoom name read, Michael Hayes, Strategic Advisor, iScore, Singapore. After greetings and my pitch, Michael stayed silent for 10 seconds before asking, "Ms. Harper, if I invest $1 million in DataCheck, what will you do with it?" The question came fast, but I didn't hesitate or play the resilient, poor woman role. I replied calmly, "I'd use half to develop the system, the rest to buy a company I was once pushed out of." On the other end, Michael's expression didn't change, but his lips twitched upward. You don't hide your motives, do you? He asked. I'm not good at acting or playing the victim for funding, I said. I don't need a lift, I just need no one to block me. For the first time, he nodded. Your answer sounds like someone who does real work, not a startup begging for handouts. A week later, iScore Ventures sent an official offer, $1 million seed investment for 20% of DataCheck, with the condition to keep the original tech team. I was invited to Singapore to sign. That flight was my first out of the country in years. No designer luggage or fancy bags, but I walked with confidence I didn't have 3 years ago. The signing happened on the 15th floor of a Raffles Place skyscraper. Michael shook my hand after. You're the one holding the flag on your chessboard now. Where do you start? I looked at him, unwavering. At the company I walked out of, Apex Dynamics. I didn't hide anymore. I wasn't the girl left in the rain. I was playing a new game, and this time, I moved first. Stabbing a knife in the right spot takes more than one swing. It needs patience, a cool head, and the right moment. 3 months after DataCheck got iScore's funding, I quietly bought Apex Dynamics shares through a Hong Kong parent company. Some small shareholders needed quick cash, others were fed up with the company's financial mess. In 2 months, I held 30%, the second largest shareholder after Chairman William Watson, Emily's father. I didn't announce myself or appear. I wanted Lily Harper's name to be mentioned only when it could silence a room. The chance came faster than I thought. Apex Dynamics fell into chaos over internal cash flow issues. Orders from secondary branches weren't paid on time, partners delayed contracts, banks refused credit. The finance department, led by James, blamed the new accounting system, but I knew the problem wasn't technical. An emergency shareholder meeting was called. Emily chaired it for her absent father, avoiding responsibility, really. I got the invite like other shareholders, but this time, I wouldn't sit in the back. That morning, I wore a fitted black suit, gray heels, hair in a low bun, wine-red lipstick. Not to attract, but to remind someone I knew well, a pair of red shoes can start a long drama. As I pushed open the door to the 18th floor meeting room at Apex Dynamics headquarters, the room went silent. Emily, mid-presentation on restructuring, looked up, stunned. She didn't expect the woman dumped for being poor to walk in like she owned the place. I strode to the head of the table, reserved for high-voting shareholders, and set my bag down. James Carter sat to my right. When he saw me, he said nothing, but I felt the slight clench of his hands on the table. His eyes locked on me, not from affection, but horror. I didn't look at him. The meeting secretary confirmed attendees. When she read, Lily Harper, representing LTH holding 30% shares, the room turned to me. I just smiled, no explanation. After some presentations, I spoke softly but clearly. As a major shareholder, I request an audit of the past 6 months' financial reports. I've also had DataCheck, an AI financial analysis system, run a preliminary cash flow check. I clicked the remote, and the screen lit up. Redline charts showed dense irregularities in advances, diplomatic funds, and unverified internal reimbursements. The final slide linked accounts to a recipient, Emily Watson, $680,000 total, approved by James Carter, noted as urgent processing. The room froze. I continued calmly, if unverified cash withdrawals are a mistake, once is an oversight. But 6 months, over $680,000, is no mistake, it's collusion. Emily stood, voice shaking, you're slandering me. I never received it. I raised a hand, cut her off, and switched the screen. A clip from internal systems showed James signing urgent advances for Emily. I turned to him, looking straight for the first time. On behalf of voting shareholders, I demand you resign as finance head within 24 hours and suspend Emily Watson's executive rights until an independent audit is done. He said nothing, face pale. She didn't dare react, head bowed, arms trembling. The ones who treated me like trash sat silent. I stood, gathered my files, and walked out. At the door, I paused, not turning back, but loud enough for all. Some climb by betrayal, but I was betrayed to go further. Then I left. Each step ended not an old relationship, but foolish illusions of loyalty. After the meeting, I went home alone, no celebration, no toasts like in movies. I don't like parties. I just wanted to shed the heavy suit of pressure, wipe off the red lipstick, and breathe in quiet. What I did wasn't revenge. It was reclaiming dignity. I wasn't a weak heroine or a forgiving side character. I was Lily Harper, and I learned from failure, the world doesn't remember who cried, it remembers who rose from tears. The story didn't settle before James Carter's parents showed up. I was watering a cactus on my balcony when the building manager called. Ms. Harper, 2 elderly people are here, saying they're your ex-boyfriend's parents. I frowned. Ex-boyfriend? Since when was an ex-husband demoted? I went down. Robert and Susan stood there, carrying bags of oranges, apples, and homemade pastries, like I was a good niece they hadn't seen in years. I invited them in, poured tea, polite but not warm like before. After small talk, Susan began. Lily, we know our boy was wrong. He was young, tempted. But he was your husband. Can you go easy on him? I set my teacup down, looked at her. Her eyes still held affection, like I was still their daughter-in-law. But I'd learned gentle looks don't erase years of silence as they watched their son cheat. I replied evenly, your son called me a burden. Now I'm just returning the value he gave me. Robert's face reddened. Susan sighed, about to speak, then stopped. I said no more. They left, bags of oranges untouched. After that, industry news buzzed. Emily Watson was removed from the board for financial misconduct in advances. Her family faced tax audits for hiding income and investments. Some finance papers questioned Apex Dynamics ethics. William, the chairman, stepped back to aid the investigation. James Carter vanished from public view, some said on vacation for exhaustion, others said suspended. I didn't care why, no one could shield him now. At 9 p.m. Friday, my phone rang, James Carter's familiar number. I let it ring thrice before answering. His voice was low, no longer confident or cold. Lily, I was wrong. I stayed silent. I know you don't feel for me anymore, but can you let this go? We had good years. I exhaled slowly, then replied in the same tone he used for our divorce. Sorry, I'm not a saint. I'm a CEO. I hung up, not angry, not happy, just everything in its right place. I poured warm water, sat by the window, and looked at the city night. Lights twinkled, crowds moved, but my heart was still. The day he left me for another, he didn't ask how I felt. So today, I didn't need to ask if he hurt. After that call, James didn't try again. He knew excuses were as useless as crumpled paper, smoothed out, but never whole. I didn't give him a chance to atone or drag me down again. Weeks later, I filed a lawsuit as a shareholder and acting CEO of Apex Dynamics, charging embezzlement and gross financial mismanagement. I submitted everything, AI cash flow analysis, unclear transfer records, and a clip of James and Emily from internal security. Each piece was numbered, legally stamped, airtight. The regional finance office investigated 18 months of Apex Dynamics transfers. The result stunned the industry: $1.36 million withdrawn as business expenses, no receipts, no witnesses. James Carter and Emily Watson hit the news, no longer young leaders, but suspects in a fraud case. I didn't gloat. I just felt it was right. Some called me ruthless. Relatives who once told me women should yield now invited me to dinner, reminiscing. Others who avoided me now said, "You were always talented, I didn't notice." I smirked. Strange how a person seen as stubborn until they succeed, then past pain becomes admired lessons. I didn't care, remembering their words, their looks, how they sided with the betrayer. I didn't return for forgiveness. I returned to make them remember. They had to recall me as a burden, kicked out for being unfit, leaving with an empty suitcase. And most importantly, the day I signed the order to fire the man who said I wasn't enough. The trial was quiet but intense. My evidence was undeniable. The court barred James Carter and Emily Watson from financial management roles for 5 years and ordered repayment with interest. Leaving the courtroom, I faced the early winter wind. I pulled my coat collar up, not looking back. I heard Emily sob behind me, James silent. I didn't need apologies. I needed them to stand there, as I once did, discarded without mercy. That night, I checked emails and saw messages from Apex Dynamics staff. An accountant James scolded thanked me. A receptionist who watched me leave years ago did too, thanks for setting the company right. Without you, we'd still be silent. I read each, not to feel moved or wronged. I just confirmed, I did this for justice, not myself. I deleted the emails, no replies. I didn't need thanks. I needed them to remember, I was pushed out, and today, I stood at the door. That winter, the city chilled early. Ginkgo leaves outside my office window fell, a few yellow ones clinging to wet ground. I liked watching them drop in silence, like reviewing my old life, no resentment, no regret, no need for recognition. When the National Startup Forum for Women in AI invited me, I almost declined. I don't like stages or praise. But Anna said, they don't need your speech. They need to see a woman knocked down who rose higher than her attacker. I nodded. That day, I wore a white suit, not to stand out, but to remind myself I'd washed my past clean with efforts no one saw when I cried alone at midnight. The hall was large, seats in a semicircle, the stage simple in white and blue. Lights warmed enough to ease nerves. The MC introduced me, CEO of DataCheck, a $15 million AI startup after 3 years, the only woman founder in the top 10 financial analysis systems. I stepped up, no notes, no slides, no rote thanks. I began, I wasn't born for startups. I started because I refused to be buried again. The room went silent. I told my story plainly, leaving a marriage empty-handed, eating noodles with hot water, shaking hands with an investor I had one shot to convince, the shareholder meeting where I faced the man who said I wasn't enough. Not for tears, but to prove women don't need recognition, they prove themselves by existing proudly. After, a female reporter asked, "Ms. Harper, do you regret trusting the wrong person?" I smiled, not bitter or noble. No. I don't regret trusting the wrong person. I regret thinking I wasn't good enough to leave sooner. The room erupted in applause, but I barely heard. My eyes caught the back row. James Carter sat there, silent, hair graying, face gaunt, eyes no longer arrogant. I looked at him for 3 seconds, then turned away. No shock, no pause. I did what I should have done long ago, moved on, no one calling my name. As I left the stage, lights grazed my shoulders. An organizer whispered to an assistant, "She's the perfect example, no revenge, just success." I smiled. No need for recognition, I was living proof of a woman unbroken. 3 years after leaving my first marriage, I learned happiness doesn't start with a promise, but when you stop straining to please others. The only one who didn't make me strain was Michael Hayes. He didn't say I love you daily, write letters, or hold my hand in crowds. But he knew when I was tired, when I needed silence over comfort. Since DataCheck's funding, he stayed a strategic advisor. We didn't define our bond, no one asked, no one needed to. Once, I asked, "Aren't you tired of someone so scarred?" He smiled. "I don't need you to smile daily. I need you to be you, no acting, no masks, no answering to anyone, even me." I believed. I lost faith in love at 28, but at 31, I learned to love again, mature enough to know love is an escape, it's home. Michael's proposal had no red roses or pricey rings, just a simple dinner on the 20th floor rooftop where we'd strategized my first deal. He offered a small velvet box, a plain platinum ring, no diamonds. "No vows, no fuss, just choose," he said. I nodded, no hesitation. My wedding dress was square-necked, slightly off-shoulder, mid-sleeve, soft voile, simple. I chose it myself, no consultants, because this time everything was mine. No dowry, no hired canopies, just friends, colleagues, and those who stood by me when I had nothing. Anna, who ate noodles with me. Mary, the accountant who thanked me. My mom, who cried for failing to shield me from a bad marriage. No tears at that wedding, just handshakes, knowing looks, and real smiles. I walked the aisle to soft music, my hand in Michael's, steady, no fumbling. I didn't look back, not from fear of the past, but because I didn't need to. I didn't enter Michael's life broken. I came with all I had, past, present, grit, and peace in being me. At the reception, no one mentioned James Carter, asked about the past, or wondered why no father walked me down. I walked myself, on feet that had stumbled, and that, to me, was glory. A year after the wedding, life shifted. No more smoke-filled, suspicious board meetings or nights coding until I collapsed. I still worked, but not to prove anything, just to nurture my passion. One late fall day, I got an email from Boston University's Business and Entrepreneurship Department. "We invite Ms. Lily Harper to teach a special program on startups and recovery from failure for senior female students." I thought for an afternoon, not from doubt, but because it was my first formal offer to tell my story for a fee. The class was Saturday afternoon, small, about 30 students, mostly women, eyes bright, backs straight, noting every word. No slides, no chalk. I spoke with the voice hoarse from old arguments, the eyes blurred from divorce papers. But no tears, no blame, no pity. If I cried recalling the past, I hadn't moved on. I had, not by turning back, but with steady steps, sleepless hours, and telling myself, "You're not weak, you're healing." After, a front row student asked, "Ms. Harper, if you met the one who left you, what would you say?" The room went still. Not a nosy question, I saw admiration and fear in her eyes. Maybe she'd been hurt or feared it, like me. I smiled, no need to think. "I'd say nothing," I said slowly. "I'd drive by, smile, and move on. No turning back, no greeting, no proving I've forgiven or am noble. Silence is victory, not because I'm better, but because I need nothing from him anymore." After class, a student shyly asked for a photo. I nodded. We stood together, 2 generations, 2 hurts, both standing tall. That night, I came home. Michael set the table, mushroom soup and red bean porridge wafting like a luxury I once thought I'd never have. He asked, "How was the lecture?" I smiled, poured warm water. "Fine." No tears, no shakes. I told my story like it was someone else's. Not because I forgot, but because I'm strong enough not to need to remember. He didn't press. I looked out the window, light rain falling, car lights glinting on wet roads like old wounds reflecting new light. I didn't choose forgiveness, I chose to live brighter. They say women post-divorce choose pain or endurance. I didn't. I chose victory. As a mid-sized startup CEO with 40 employees, I'm used to 6-hour nights, coffee for breakfast, and emailing while shampooing. But today, I took a day off, not for sickness, meetings, or stress, just because I wanted to. Michael woke at 6:30 a.m., saw me curled in blankets, and frowned. Columbo, you forgot an 8 a.m. schedule? I pulled the blanket higher, voice lazy. No, I'm on leave. He stared like I'd announced a career switch to cooking streams. You voluntarily off? No fever? I didn't answer, just turned over and slept. At 9 a.m., hunger woke me. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled of toast and poached eggs. Michael, in his gray apron, fried eggs while reading emails on his iPad. I leaned on the door, arms crossed. CEO or chef? He didn't look up, just said, CEO Monday to Friday. It's Sunday. I laughed. That airtight logic is your brand. We ate breakfast like a normal couple, no meetings, no market strategies, no shares or reports, just crisp toast and a half-peeled orange because I was lazy. At noon, I dragged him to a local market, a place the old me, with a $10 bag and flip-flops, would have avoided. Today, in a white hoodie, hair tied high, I pulled a pink plastic basket, browsing vegetable and fish stalls, teasing the dumpling lady. Last time, they cracked when steamed, make it up to me, she laughed. You dress nice, still haggling. Michael trailed, carrying bags, nodding like a bodyguard to a quirky tycoon. In the afternoon, we cooked at home, no fancy European dishes or restaurant plating, just pumpkin soup, braised ribs, and rice. I played soft music, wore an apron, and tried not to burn the onions. He laughed, first time I've seen you chop without frowning. I turned, squinting. First time you've seen me do chores doesn't mean it's my first chop. Dinner was ready as light rain fell. We ate to gentle music, silent, but I knew, I was living, not proving, just living for me. That night, in my study, I scrolled my phone and saw an old chat. James Carter's last message, 2 years ago, unread, I'm sorry. I didn't open it, not from anger, but no reason to care. I turned off the screen, looked at our wedding photo, me and Michael, no gold rings, no big party, just two people who'd stumbled and chose to walk together, no lifting, no hurting to prove anything. I don't need applause, just one day a month like today, not a CEO, not a success story, not an inspiration, just Lily Harper. And that's enough. At 67, I raised my first cat, a lazy tabby, little Lily, always pawing my laptop mid-quarterly report. Michael named it, Your Name, Shrunk, to please you and save words. We live in a small house south of the city, by a lake, with a jasmine-filled yard and a wooden swing I insisted on after Michael forgot our 15th anniversary. The swing's old now, rain-soaked, no longer smelling of fresh wood. But each morning, we sit there, he with tea, me with rice cakes, the cat sprawled like sleep's the only priority. Michael's old, hair white as bone, but his eyes still deep, calm, and safe. He never asks, are you okay? Just quietly drapes a coat over my shoulders when the wind blows. Sometimes, old Boston students write, inviting me to lecture. One said, you made me believe women can succeed without screaming. I laughed. Screaming's fine, but silencing a room by walking in is achievement. Yesterday, we had a checkup. The doctor asked Michael, do you eat salty or bland? He replied, doesn't matter. My wife eats salty, so I eat bland to balance family blood. I nearly choked laughing. His odd, perfect logic. We have no kids, not because we couldn't, but we chose not to. We nurture each other with trust, quiet mornings, and nights retelling old stories, laughing at hearts we thought wouldn't heal. I keep an old box, data checks first draft, a photo from my divorce court day, and a note, if you live to 60, live like you've won. I'm 67, and I have for years. Tonight, I rested my head on Michael's arm, asking, any regrets? He flipped the paper, not looking. Yes. Regret not meeting you sooner, sparing you the trash. I laughed so hard the cat fell off the table. Life doesn't need society's perfection, just someone who knows where you hurt and holds your hand there. I was the poor girl dumped. I was the CEO who fought a battle no one believed I'd win. Now, I'm just an old wife, hugging a fat cat, eating rice cakes beside the man who believed in me before I did. That's more than enough. In the end, the story's not about a grand revenge or a bold rise, but a woman who, at rock bottom, stood, cleaned her wounds, and lived brilliantly, needing no applause. True pride isn't beating others, it's beating yourself. No need to forgive, just live well enough to never look back. So, what about you? If you were betrayed and belittled like Lily Harper, would you forgive or move on without looking back? What's the key to a woman living strongly after hurt? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear. Thank you for listening to the end. See you in the next stories, where we don't just hear tales but reflect on ourselves through each slice of emotion.